Hi YouTube, Darth here. This is Over Your Shoulder, a series where I follow unsuspecting victims and give what is usually unsolicited advice. Today's victim is Denyshang, or Denyshang, I'm not really sure. He's a level 135 with some decent stats and a very clear preference for infantry combat. I mean really, 74,000 kills and just slightly over 200 vehicle kills. It doesn't get any clearer than that. As I follow over Denyshang's shoulder today, I'll call out all the good stuff, the bad stuff, and the things I might do differently. So let's take a look over Denyshang's shoulder. Alright, we are on the ground with Denyshang, or however he says it. And it looks like we have the AUG 3. Hey, I recognize this! Heavy barrel, stubby grip, laser, a reflexed red dot sight. Not a bad choice for a red dot sight. Personally, I probably would have gone with the Coyote, but this is also a good choice for weapons that are a little bit longer range with the red dot sight. I don't know, that's just personal preference for myself. It looks like he has a guy up there on the double stack that he needs to pay attention to and gets shot down. Back up, looks like we still have the AUG. Lasers on, taking this point at Charlie currently from the enemy team. Got a little bit of action here on the minimap, possibly behind. Sounds like they're upstairs though. I'd probably try to peek this corner around the side. And we saw this guy on the minimap and he forgot all about him and he takes him out. In this case, so far, not really having a lot of luck. Some things are not being spotted by teammates, and I think I might throw it on the tugs as a recon rather than be an assault. For this map in particular, the AUG is an okay choice. I probably would go with something a little bit closer to mid-range, maybe like the M416, or possibly even an AAK can be made to work on this because of all the tight spaces, especially on Domination. And right here we can see we have an enemy coming around on the minimap, and we totally missed him and got shot down for it. So we've had a fast-paced game so far with a couple of poor decisions on Denyshang's part, especially not looking at the minimap or figuring out where enemies are in a timely fashion. Definitely something to pay attention to. So taking a look at the situation we've got going on here on the tabletop, it looks like the enemy team is pretty well holed up here at Bravo and at Charlie. This is not a bad move here to try and take Bravo, simply because it's a little bit easier to get into if nobody's looking at that staircase especially. Bravo on Domination Rogue Transmission is really good for being able to sort of project your fire into the rest of the map and control a very nice strong point. There's a lot of good cover up here that you can get behind and shoot into the other capture points. Again, this would probably be a good spot for a tugs and a radio beacon, especially if you know what your minimap is telling you. Now we can see that there's a couple of enemies on the minimap, so we want to be careful when we're peeking this corner and particularly try to pay attention to them first. It doesn't look like we do, and we get taken out from the double stack. This is actually one of my least favorite TDM and Domination maps, simply because it's so hard to re-establish yourself if you get knocked off of all 3 points here, so it's really important to get these flags under control as early as possible. Got a couple of guys here. We're a little bit exposed. Yeah, I might find a better spot for cover. I don't really like hanging out in the center so much. Alright, looks like we spawned on a squad mate there. Taking a look around, I'd probably go upstairs here and try to clear out what's left of the enemy team upstairs. And I would definitely take a look at the stacks on top of here. Maybe even go out into the field and try to come back, see what we can find. Oh, misses that guy entirely and gets taken out. So Denyshang is definitely having minimap awareness problems, and he's been taken out a number of times by enemies that were clearly on the minimap, and some that were definitely not. The minimap is one of those tools in the game that sometimes gets overlooked. It tells you so much useful information. However, if you tunnel vision, you'll miss opportunities just like that. So there's definitely a careful balance you have to strike. At this point in time, I'd probably be trying to push those double stacks that have been giving us so much trouble and try to get up in there and possibly clear everybody out. It looks like we are heading in that direction currently. Since we're sort of in a close quarters area, turning on that laser would probably be a good idea for the AUG 3. Miss that enemy right there. Gonna follow up with this window here. Misses him and does a little bit of hip fire and takes him out. There's the strength of the AUG 3 when it comes to hip fire. Taking a quick look at the score, it looks like Denyshang is still having a pretty rough time at 4 and 6. And looking at the minimap, we can see that there's some out in the field, so you have to be careful when peeking this window. Alright, and now we're starting to see a little bit of that spawn point action out in the field, and gets taken out by a rocket. And lucky spawn out here, spawn on what looks like a squad mate, gets taken out rather quickly. Looks like a squad mate picked him up, and continuing to push forward, didn't mind that reload. Kind of a bad situation here for the Chinese team as the Russians had control of the entire map. And because it's a spawn point out here in the fields, you really got to watch that minimap and pay attention. I'd probably play this a little bit slow since I see 2 or 3 enemies coming. Doesn't quite make it to that cover before he gets taken out. Looks like we're back out in the field again, and the Chinese team is having a really hard time getting back into this game. They're only down by 30 points, but this is a situation in which having that radio beacon on A, B, or C would really help. Alright, we can see that we have an enemy coming here on the minimap. Might have been able to get him a little bit quicker. Catches him anyways. Now, the really bad situation you can get into here is if the enemy team has A, B, and C, crossing this can turn into sort of a no man's land. We're not in that situation, but if you find yourself in that situation, you might want to use smoke instead. draws quicker than that guy and wins that engagement. The AUG A3 is not the best at heads-up engagements, which is why I would probably prefer something else for this map. The AUG A3 does really good on long-range maps, but this map tends to be mid and closer. But you can make it work, as we have seen, because there's no denying the power of that hip fire. And a poorly timed res is going to get him killed just like that. Again, good teamwork, bad minimap awareness. And back on the ground, let's take a look at the tabletop, what's going on here. We pushed them out of the 2 points at A and B, so we didn't get choked off here in the hills, which is good. Doesn't get to cover quick enough and gets killed rather quickly. So kind of a rough round so far for Denyshang. Looks like we're going to get this teammate up. He's being a really good teammate about reviving his squad mates, but a little bit to his own detriment. Game's pretty even so far. Definitely want to find some cover and heal up after taking that damage. Almost gets taken out by a claymore here. Got to be careful coming around stairs. This guy almost set that off and took himself out. Trying to figure out how we're going to deal with that. Looks like teammate took care of it for us. Picks up his teammate and needs to consider getting some more health right now. A's in trouble right now. Game's all tied up, so it's really anybody's game at this point. Looks like their team has spawned out in the fields and is around Bravo and Alpha currently. This is probably not my favorite place to be. Not a whole lot of cover from Bravo and Alpha here. Good choice in hipfire. Can't seem to come up with this guy just yet. Hipfire takes him out. Low on health. Definitely need to seek cover here. Finds his medkit again, and looks like our team has come up with Alpha now. That's an example of when you can hear your enemies coming and you should definitely use it to your advantage. You'll notice there that he switched from hipfire to ADS, and you get kind of the best of both worlds, but not really. You get the shoot immediately advantage of hip firing, but you also don't get the full advantage of the aim down sights. I think in this case I'd definitely be trying to watch those angles a little bit better because we're peering a little bit too much at the beam there in the center. He manages to come up with that guy with a little bit of hipfire luck. Again, there on the minimap, we can see that they had enemies and dead bodies, and we almost missed that guy and managed to come up with his friend as well. Stuck around here a little bit too long, and the enemy came fishing. If you ever find yourself getting taken out by enemies that aren't on the minimap, you definitely want to take a look at possibly throwing down tugs, simply because it will spot all of those enemies for you. And I feel like if that's your team's weakness, that's what you need to focus on. This is potentially dangerous here. Manages to take out one enemy. Oh, he's got an easy time with all these guys. Oh, denied. Ow, it hurts. Oh, eats the bullet for his teammate. That's unfortunate. Still a close game. Denyshang's team is only down by about 30 points. Probably could turn this around real easy if we manage to hold on to Alpha and Charlie for any amount of time. Looks like Charlie's getting moved. Lots of long-range action here. The enemy team is definitely doing their homework about spotting. Not healing up quite yet. Catches these guys coming up the staircase. Uses the hipfire, but gets taken down by just too much opposition. Gets picked up by a teammate. Alright, we are back in business. It's time to throw down health, find some cover, and try to figure out where all that crap was shooting from. Looks like the double stack there in front of Bravo is populated by bad guys. Possibly another. Not a bad idea to check that out. Doing a good job of taking a look at that situation. Here's where you're starting to see a little bit of why the RDS site is a little bit more impaired than the Coyotes, just because of those large braces on the side. Low health here, should probably play it slow, does not play it slow, gets taken out. Looks like we spawn on a squad mate here. Capped out again, not a good situation to be in, getting closer to the end here. Getting capped out in Conquest or Domination this close to the end pretty much spells doom for your team. And you can see that that Russian lead is really starting to take off as we have a 50-point lead now. We spot a couple of dead bodies. Whenever you see dead bodies, you know there are enemies nearby, because they certainly didn't die from a heart attack. Getting inside this area, this is probably giving him a good opportunity to get a good flank on the enemy team if he manages to kill everybody that's up here. Looks like his teammate had the same idea. We have a few down below. Might be able to catch a couple more if they're not already dead. Got the height advantage on these guys. Might not be a bad idea to throw out a grenade, flush them out, and there it goes. Looks like that double stack is still populated. Probably would have gotten myself some cover before picking up my teammate. Denyshang back up. Russian team still in charge of the map. It's not looking good for these guys at this point. Takes that guy out with some hip fire from his secondary. Not sure why we switched to that one. We had plenty of bullets left in the AUG. On the case of secondaries with the AUG, I generally like to have a close-range blaster simply because the AUG is so good at medium to long range. We can see some trouble here on the minimap to the left, doesn't catch it in time and gets taken out again. Oh, ran right into that one. Back up and you can see we're out in the field. We got a long way to run here and not a whole lot of time to do it in. Taking a look at the map, looks like the Russian team is mostly holed up on this left side. Does a good job of setting the target for his squad mates. Awesome work, especially when you're late in the game. Not a lot of people remember to do that. Cooks the grenade by holding down the button. By the way, if you're curious how to cook a grenade on PC, you simply tap on the numerical key that corresponds to your grenade. Your soldier will pull out the grenade and you'll simply have to hold down the left mouse button until you want to release it. Compare this to pressing the G key, which immediately throws the grenade. Is this actually useful? No, not really. The grenade's not actually live while it's in your hands, only once you drop it, and if you drop it while you're shot, you might kill your teammates that are nearby. Denyshang back up. Looks like we're in the middle on this point. Probably would have focused a little bit more on this point from earlier in the game, because this is a nice one to have, especially if you have a tugs. You can set it up here and see people coming up that staircase, which is pretty much the one way to get up here, with the exception I think there's also a ladder on the other side. Doing a little bit of peeking on this guy. Way too many friendlies looking in the same direction here. It might be time to get a move on. This game is closing out rather rapidly here. We've only got 6 tickets left for the Chinese team, so it's pretty much all over but the crying. And all of those dead Chinese bodies on the minimap sort of tell the story of how this round went. Does a good job of getting teammates up, but doesn't really do a good job of self-preservation, as he did that in front of the sniper, and that's the game. So a rough round there for Denyshang/Denyshang. Not a lot of help from his teammate in the form of spots, and usually when I get into that situation I like to run with a tug so that there aren't any surprises coming my way. Strategically speaking, I probably would have dropped a beacon and a tugs at Bravo and used that to put a foothold into the map for my team. Another thing I might work on is watching what angles are exposed to enemies, as there were a number of times when Denyshang turned his flank when he was in the courtyard. I also noticed that a few times Denyshang ran into enemy fire or rounded a corner when maybe he should have waited some. A little more care in that tight situation probably would have gone a long way. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Over Your Shoulder. If you'd like to be featured in a future episode, send me a message on Facebook, Twitter, or leave a comment down below along with your Battlelog information. If you're new around here, please check out my channel and consider subscribing. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.